Hey guys, FatBuddyCat here. How you doing? Tonight, we're going to be working on the Wildcat 223. Alright guys, and as you can see, I jumped ahead a little bit. I already got my crankcase bolts out. And we're going to be going after the cam this time around, okay? This already has a Pinnacle billet rod. Now we're going for the cam. So to do that, you got to relieve your spring pressure, all right? Otherwise, it's just going to keep pushing your tappets in whatever direction. So we're going to be changing our springs anyway, so I went and took the valve cover off, all right? And I removed my rockers. Okay, and they just go on. It's got like this wrist pin style that goes through the post. You just take off your clips on the bottom side and then pull your pins through, pull your rockers off. Alright, don't lose your clips. Obviously don't lose your rockers. So the next thing I'm going to be going after is the 22-pound springs that are already in here. We're going to be swapping those out to 26s. I think maybe I'll try to do that first. I know it can be a little bit of trouble. Nah, I got a better idea. We're going to do the cam first because I might even take the head off to put those on. I think those were a little harder than usual. Even with all that room to play, it's the room up here that gets you. Alright, let's get this thing opened up. Look at this plug, guys, huh? She is just fine and dandy. That's a keeper right there. I'll tell you something, guys. Grey Goat Garage, Grey Goat himself, he hooked me up with these gaskets, alright? He had them first. These things, I thought they wouldn't last. Thought it was like a one-time use thing, which they are. But look at that. They didn't even tear. Pretty cool. Good thing I have a bunch of them. Look at that cleanup. That's why you use those guys, alright? Do the same thing on that valve cover gasket. Let me show you. With these paper ones, guys, you just, that's it. Use a new one. Don't you gotta go chipping anything off with a razor blade. Nobody got time for that. We're now inside. There's a little pool of oil on the bottom. Besides this one little speck of something, I don't even, it's probably something that dropped in. Not metal. Whatever it is. Probably just fell in now. This thing is clean, guys. The oil was very clean that I collected out of this too. Alright, there's that Pinnacle rod up in there. Okay, I'm just giving it an inspection before I touch anything. I have the spark plug out, so there's no compression really. But there's nothing holding this cam in. Well, we're already taking that out anyways, right? Let me get that out of there. Okay, so here's our stock cam. Not a bad profile on that thing at all. A little different. It really gets up there. Alright, we're going to be taking the stock tappets out. We're going to be replacing those with the ones that came with their new cam kit. Okay, we're just taking a look at the rod. Give it a spin. Nice and clean. Everything looks good. You can kind of get a flashlight in, peek up at your bearing. All right, you don't want to see any like different colored metals. Okay, that's something you want to be aware of. All right, and so we don't get too confused, I just have one of our tappets, lifters, whatever you want to call it. All right, I got one out. That's sitting right there. It's the long one. Okay, the shorter one is one that comes in the kit with this cam. Pretty neat. So you don't have to change the size of your rods, guys. Okay, now that the old ones are in the bag, put them to the side. Alright guys, here's the side profile of the stock cam. Alright, with those sort of oblong lobes on them. Okay, the intake would be closest to us. The exhaust is the other side. Alright, and this is the Tennessee Thunder Sticks. Alright guys. Yeah, look at those moguls. Alright. Now before installing any of this stuff, you're going to lube it up. But, man, this thing's nice. I'm going to see how it fits. Where do you see what we got to do next, guys? Oh boy. Okay, so upon fitment of our new race cam, alright, you can see I have the timing dots lined up. I gave it a spin. Not bad, right? Push the cam all the way in. Uh-oh. You hear that? Hold on. Let me grab my rag here real quick. Do that again for you. You hear that? Okay, it's ever so barely making a noise. And what I believe that is the casting, you know, the filings here, just barely catching the weighted section of the spring on the compression release. Okay, so I'll show you what I did is I took my orange Crayola, okay, and I marked an area that was suspicious, okay, right there, and it rubbed the marker off exactly in that spot. Now it's not gouging and it's barely touching, okay. We can rub this a little bit, not taking any cyborg meat out of that, all right. Where we're rubbing is just ever so slightly on the face of the lobe on the crank, okay. So we're going to be addressing this. I'm going to see what we have for tools. Now this motor already has the governor removed, the billet rod, you know, it's got the flywheel on it already, and I really don't want to take it all apart. So I'm going to try to do this as clean as possible. Let me get set up. Alright, this should offer some protection. Alright, so here's what I got so far. And I'm just using a light sanding disc on the end of my Dremel. I'm just using the face of it and a little bit of the edge in the high spots. I'm just taking the millings off. I'm going to try to polish it up a little bit. Okay, and I just went through and touched it up with a polishing brush. And here's our result for now. I'll pull all this stuff out and see if it fits. Okay, so that was a little bit better, but I'm still rubbing a little bit. I'm going with the next up grit sanding wheel. I'm going to work it the same exact way and polish myself out of there. Okay, so here's my final grind. I'm probably going to just even that one little bump out right there on the edge. Alright, just run my, kind of like taper my edge back just a little, and then I'm going to use my other wheels. I'm going to polish this right out best I can. Alright, now I'm going to go clean this thing out with some soap and water very carefully. Alright, and then I'll go back with some brake clean and really get this junk out of here. Okay, I have everything thoroughly cleaned out. I'm going to be installing my tappets and my cam. You'll notice there's a small pool of synthetic oil in the corner. What I did is I just took some oil and I dumped it through a funnel. I'll show you. Like that. Alright, I made sure to get some back in my bearing, all over my crank, my journals. Okay, try to get as much as I could on that bearing. Reach up the sidewalls of my cylinder. Alright, and then, you know, move things around a little bit. Okay, and I'll end up dumping this out. Once I get everything in place, I'll hold it in my hand and I'll corner this out into something. Or I might just leave it in there and empty it out the drain plug after I seal it up. Just that way we have something, you know, already lubricating and working its way back in there. Okay, so I ended up taking off the head anyway. Reason being, it's going to be easier to do these valve springs. Plus, I want to put a fresh head gasket on it. I'm not going to pull the rod because I don't have a new bearing right now. This is a relatively fresh motor. It's pretty much just broken in on the rod. And I'm going to hope that this light polishing, you know, I basically took the mill scale and maybe, you know, a little heavy and something, but, you know, I hope it's not enough to throw this thing out of balance. I contacted a few professionals and, you know, and we agreed that that's the proper way to do it. Here's the thing. I had torqued this flywheel on prior, okay, to 65 foot-pounds. Alright, and I tried the old bam bam knock knock method. I'm very familiar with that method. I tried multiple different angles. I had some guys recommend maybe trying to hold the flywheel and hit down on the crank. You know, I tried that. I tried putting my crank holding tool for my flywheel installations. I tried putting that on there to see if somewhat, you know, supporting the crank extra while I, you know, gave this a couple balmy knocks made a difference. Nothing. Okay, and I'm not going to go breaking this motor over that. I don't have a flywheel puller, right? But I made something to pull. Alright, and what this did is nice, huh? It was flat. That went over that, and there's two threaded holes in these. Alright, and I had two bolts in there, and torqued them up pretty good and gave it a shot there, right in the center. I tried both ways with this. Nothing. Maybe a thicker piece of metal, but I'm telling you, that is a lot of torque in these threads. ARC does have a puller. I think we're going to put it back together, guys, and honestly, if it's a problem, I'll take it apart again. And when I do, I'm going to replace the rod bearing anyway, and I'll probably do the I'll probably do like the crank bearings, you know what I'm saying? Or if it's just a slight thing, maybe we'll look into a billet side cover with a double bearing. Okay, so we got options. All right, we're just gonna you know, hope for the best and pray that everything turns out okay. Meanwhile, up top, this little bit of grit that you're seeing in the cylinder, okay, what that is that's red Loctite. You can see it here. All right, and I'll show you how I put that on when we reassemble this motor. I'm going to go ahead and clean everything up again and oil everything. All right, so copious amounts of brake clean, probably some soap and water, things of that nature. Blow it off some air and then get some oil on it right away. All right. Okay, I let this thing sit overnight and I let that synthetic oil kind of run its way through things. All right, I dumped it out. You can see the remainder. I'm gonna take it outside, clean it again. All right, guys, I got the old head gasket off, pretty much cleaned off. Same with the head, and I'm gonna clean the bottom end first. Get that out of the way, get it drying so we can lube it up. So now that my motor is thoroughly cleaned, I grabbed a new clean board to stand in while JW number 1 is outside drying off after I gave it a good cleaning. We'll dub this JW2. Okay, next up, guys, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna well, no, we're gonna get those springs out first, and then I'm gonna take the head out and clean it. Might as well throw yield side cover and yon bucket of soap. Okay, before we go performing the old thumb buckler here, we're gonna try to protect our valves from pushing against this hard flat surface. All right, so I find that maybe like 2 or 3 of your expired COVID masks, you can fold them over if you have to. You stick those up under there, okay, and then press down. Way better. Don't go using those expensive ones, all right? I'm gonna save those for the zombie apocalypse. All right, as usual, the exhaust side is always easier for some reason. The intake side, a little bit harder, but I got it out of there. A socket. Push down. Those will release. Then you can just pull it right out. Okay, so we got our springs out, our retainers, our valves, everything's sitting right up there. I'm going to take this over to my bucket, clean it off with a soapy rag. Just kind of scrub it the best I can. I don't want to ming up those seats at all. I mean, I'm going to lap them in for good measure. Clean them up and lap them in, but try not to mess them up. Alright, everything's back, ready for lubrication. I'm going to start with the block because I'm going to be seating those valves back in. Alright, so dry this off with a paper towel real good. Grab my funnel, start getting oil to all the important places, including the sleeve, cylinder. Alright guys, I'm just going to be lapping these valves in. I'll use some fine metal grade compound, my dowel. Alright, I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger, put it on the edge of the valve, put it on the seat, give it a few twists till it doesn't really make much noise or resistance. Alright, nothing too abrasive, just so we have a nice seat. Did I say lapping or lashing? I always forget. See what I mean, guys? I seek professional help. Never claimed to be a professional myself, but we try to do what they do. Okay, very, very scant amount. We're not trying to really take any cyborg meat off of this thing at all. Alright, so I ended up busting a rubber, but these were already lapped at the factory, but I lapped them anyway. How smooth those are. That's exactly what you want. Alright, now I could water test these and all. If I had switched to a different valve, had a different profile, or might have a different profile, but where these valves were already lapped and seated, we're going to clean it up. We're going to roll with it. Alright, I got everything cleaned up. I'll wipe my valves up, a little oil on them, feed them in, make sure my intake seal is there, and put my springs in. Alright guys, so here's a 22 and here's a 26. So we have something going our way. At least it's a little bit shorter. Just like that, blam jam banana, guys. I'm out of there. Alright, 22's in hand, 26's in the head. Make sure we put the right valves where they're supposed to be. Okay, I'm gonna give this another wipe down and re-lubricate everything one more time. Okay, I have my cam in. Alright, we'll give it a spin. And it's shaking around a little bit, but it's because we're kind of free. But we're not grabbing on anything or hitting on anything, so that's good. Oh boy. Next I'm going to put the side cover on it. Tighten it on a little bit. Give it another spin. Okay, now we give it a spin. That's good. That's real good. It's not doing what it was doing before, that's for sure. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna get back in there, lube everything up, put a fresh gasket on, and then we'll be getting out of there. Alright, now we got a fresh pool dripping there. Full synthetic mobile oil, okay? I just doused everything, and I kind of, by now, working on these engines, I can eyeball what I have in there, and I'll guesstimate it when I fill it, but it'll be alright. Alright, this time around, I'm going to be testing out one of my new gaskets that came from EC Carburetors. Alright, this one has some form of a gasket maker, alright, that's inlaid to the bottom half of it. Alright, not sure if these are specifically designed just for this Wildcat, but this is a stroke motor, guys, and they do vibrate a little. Either it's bleeding awesomeness already, or I put red Loctite on all of my bolts. Next, I'm going to torque them to 18 foot-pounds. When you're torquing them down, if you ever get lost in the process, don't worry. Wildcat has your back. Alright? Start here. follow the numbers. Okay? Torque specs are very important on this engine. The next gasket in our set is a stock Tillotson 212R head gasket. Okay? That is what fits on this motor, and the reason we use that because this motor has the EC Carburetors exclusive Pinnacle long rod. Alright, and that pretty much brings this piston right up to the top of the deck. So to make sure everything clears in our valves, we're going to use that head gasket. Sweet. Now we can put that head on there. Alright. GX200 spec is 17 foot-pounds. We're going to be going 18 foot-pounds. And I'm going to be adding red Loctite. Just like we did over here. See, it looks pretty. Alright, this is looking super clean. I've got it all wiped down. Next thing I'm going to be doing is lowering in my push rods and putting my rockers back on. Alright, I didn't have a cam card with this. The only card it came with told me to use the new tappets, which were shorter because this is a higher lift cam. So I'm going 30 thousandths, but I'm running, you know, I'm doing my same thing I usually do. I'm running it snug over here, okay, and a little baggy on the exhaust side. We'll see how it goes from there. Alright guys, so in order to check things out a little bit further, I'm going to be putting the recoil starter on, putting the engine oil in, and then giving this some wet pulls. Let that oil splash around a little bit, do its thing. Almost forgot, since it never came off, we'll put that flywheel starter cup and that nut back on there. We won't be needing any red Loctite here. Heck, we probably don't even need the nut. But we'll get it on there anyway. I guess it'll hold the starter cup. 65 foot-pounds. I got that OMB crank holder tool, so everybody knows I'm cool. Coil starter. Check. Let's get some oil in there. Let this bad girl marinate. Okay, now without the spark plug or anything, we're just going to be pulling this thing over, 20 times or so. Okay, and just picture it, you know, the oil flopping around in there, going around on your cam gear, you know, flying around maybe just a little bit inside your bearings, getting on your crank, your rod, maybe a little bit gets up here on your cylinder wall. That's why I made sure to lubricate that first. Alright, so now I'm going to put the spark plug in. I'm just going to give it a couple tugs and see how it feels. And typically I'll know right then and there if my valve lash is going to be alright for starting process anyway. Alright guys, as you can tell it's getting dark. I'm going to have to throw the lights on here. But I gave it a few pulls. It's a little bit hard. So I'm going to recheck my lash, make sure I was at top dead center, all that good stuff. But we're going to be leaving it here. Alright, I'm going to let this thing sit overnight and let that Mobile 1 settle on those parts. Okay guys, we're going to have to call that part 1 to stage 2, according to EC Carburetors, on the Wildcat 223. I mean, this thing is stroked. It's got a flat top piston. It's got 26-pound springs. It's got a hot 265 cam. It's a long billet rod, billet flywheel. You know, this is gonna have a VM22, and this is basically what everyone else calls what, like a stage 3, stage 4. Nah, just a two-ski. Have a good night, guys. It's always a work in progress around here. Thanks for watching. We get this thing running tomorrow.